Hi, my name is Dr. Giles. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, and today I wanted to talk about pregnancy and what it does to your stomach, how often, many times with pregnant women, and specifically in the third trimester, how the abdomen starts to protrude forward and causes misalignment at about the thoracic number 5, about the 5th thoracic. So if I turn to the side, in fact, Rebecca, if you come over here for a minute, I'm going to show this here. Let's just have you turn to your side. So Rebecca, can I touch your stomach? You okay? Yes. There? If I touch here, you can see the abdomen is here, but the vector of force is down this way on her spine. So T5 is roughly in this area right here. Now if you look at it and think about where the baby is, and as she becomes larger and you know, through the pregnancy, this can have a tendency to pull forward on T5. Okay, so that actually subluxates or causes that vertebra to go forward. Thanks, just sit down just for a minute and I'll come back here in a minute. As we talked about last time, let me just jump into here real quick. As we talked last time, a subluxation is when the vertebra moves forward. Okay, so here in the low back, this is just the idea of the subluxation. Can you see that from where you are? You're good? The idea is right here, when I press subluxate, it means that it's going to actually get out of position. That vertebra is going to move out of position. And what it's going to do is cause irritation and inflammation, and the nerve roots will actually start to swell, and it's just very painful. That's showing here in the low back. T5 is about right here. And now if you have the baby right here, it's going to cause a lot of pressure coming forward, and that'll subluxate or misalign right there. So the idea is to get that to move, adjusting that vertebra. If I press here on spinal correction, watch here as I press spinal correction. You can see that move forward, moving forward more. Whoops, pressed the wrong button and away we went. Let's see if we can get back there real quick. Touch screens are always touchy. Okay, so if I go into spinal correction, as I push that, you can see this move more forward and more forward. The disc spacing right here thickens. There's less pressure on the nerve root. This becomes larger and larger and into better position. That's the idea of the adjustment. So now, as I show you this, let's come back to this spot. On T5, if I touch T5, I want to come up here with my mouse here. And if I touch T5, you can see right where that goes. Yep. So T5, you can see how that's innervating to the stomach. This vertebra right here is what creates the autonomic nervous system's flow to the stomach. So if you have an abnormal position of T5, you're going to have an increased function of acid. So there's going to be a lot more acid in the area. And also we notice that there's an increase in hiatal hernias with this as well. So I'm going to show you what I do for a correction on hiatal hernia. Rebecca, just come over here and lean against the wall. Now I treated Rebecca through her first, or from her previous child as well, and she's pregnant again now. And so, did you have trouble with hiatal hernia with that last time?
Just
okay.
Heartburn.
Heartburn. Okay. So what we would do is heartburn and hiatal hernia, I think, are basically the same thing many times. If this is the diaphragm and here's the esophagus, and the esophagus comes up through the diaphragm, many times during pregnancy it'll cause a little bit of a turn, like a little gooseneck in the esophagus, which causes pressure on the cardiac sphincter. The sphincter at the top of the stomach is a little muscle that contracts or holds like this. So what I do is I reach in and I grab a hold of the stomach and I pull down on the stomach, which back on this way, here's my stomach, would be my hand. This would be the esophagus coming through it and kinked a bit. If I grab a hold of the stomach and I pull down on the stomach, what it'll do is it'll help pull the esophagus through and straighten it up and take pressure off of the cardiac sphincter. So literally the sphincter will now shut appropriately, and you're not going to have reflux of the stomach contents and acidity up into the esophagus, burning the esophagus. So the adjustment is, I'll take the ribs here, and even though she's pregnant, I'll do this to a 9 month or full term pregnant woman. Reach in and push into the stomach, and then pull down. Now I'm not pushing as hard as I normally do. Many times I'm leaning right in there. So I'm reaching in, coming up onto the stomach, and then pulling down on the stomach, and you can actually hear a little sound, kind of like a gush or like a little air sound. And that's just that coming, stretching through, and it relieves the heartburn just immediately. Sometimes 2 or 3 adjustments is needed on the stomach to get it to move. Now also we'll go ahead and adjust as well on the Pro Adjuster. So let me just show you. Rebecca, come over here and let me just demonstrate how this would work. So let me show you real quick. Step to the side there a little bit. This can drop, you see this can drop so that you can accommodate the stomach as much as needed. So we're going to put it about right there and change the paper. And then the adjustment is neat, as with the Pro Adjuster we're able to determine exactly where the problem is. Now let's just use this as the example. If I go into my screen here under thoracic, and I'm just going to show you how easy this is. This is really neat. In fact, let me show you first the scan. I start up here at T1, and the scan I just push in, and in here there's a sensor. It's going to show you exactly how much motion, how much fixation there is in the system. So we go right down the vertebra one at a time. Okay. Now we're able to look at this over here on the scan over on the screen. So here's T5, and actually, interestingly enough, the higher the sine wave is, the more fixation. Well, if you look here at T5, that is the highest fixated point of where she is today. Interestingly enough, for this demonstration purposes, she's going to be misaligned right here at T5. So we're going to go ahead and touch the screen at T5. We're then going to have the pulse, the pressure at 20 pulses or 20 pounds per square inch. Come in at T5. Again, the angulation is at 43 degrees. That's exactly the angle of the joint itself. And then we push into it. And we hold it until the computer shuts off or senses that there's motion. Okay. Now we're going to go back and rescan that. And look over here now on our scan. This is where we adjusted. The green line is the motion that happened because of the adjustment. I only touched her at T5. We pulsed at about 40 pulses before we actually got the adjustment to happen. But notice the drop here. That's significant. That's a significant drop, and that's exactly what we want to see with the adjustment. So with her now, that's going to help her a lot, and so that as we work with her over the next few months, we'll pay attention to T5. So it couldn't have been a better patient for us today to explain the idea of the heartburn. But I kind of wanted you to see how easy it is for a pregnant woman to be adjusted and not worry about hurting anything in the low back, hurting the baby. The full spine is exposed. We're able to get in and adjust that and not even worry in the least, zero, about hurting her doing any kind of regular adjustments, regular side posture, chiropractic adjusting. So that works very well. So if you have any other questions, feel free to call the office. If you're out of the state, call the office. I can refer you to a chiropractor in your area that uses the Pro Adjuster that can help this so much. So I hope that's been helpful for you in discussing the idea of heartburn. So have a wonderful day and talk to you next week.